Now, let's welcome Mary Anderson and her excellent presentation, How to be an Effective Mentor. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you so much, Shirley. So thank you all for joining us today for me to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart. I think about it a lot, I care about it a lot. So we're going to talk today about how to be an effective mentor. At Research Square Company, I am an academic editor, and I also run the mentoring program and am involved in many different types of mentoring, informal and formal mentoring opportunities there, just because this is my passion in addition to editing. So the purposes of today's presentation is to talk about how imposter syndrome acts as a barrier to effective mentoring. We're going to discuss the characteristics of effective mentoring, and then we're going to explore the professional development benefits of mentoring for the mentor. They're very obvious for the mentee. We're going to talk about them for the mentor. And then we'll very briefly discuss how to identify and become involved in opportunities for informal and formal mentoring. So first we need to discuss what imposter syndrome is. It's something that most people have experienced at some point. It's the feeling that you don't belong. You are not qualified to be where you are, and somehow you've fooled everybody around you into thinking that you're qualified, and that people will find that out and you will be unable to perform in the role. And this is when you are in fact qualified to do what you are there to do, but it's a feeling of lack of self-confidence, that you don't belong there and that you're not going to be able to perform. And it can be quite crippling and prevent you from performing when you could otherwise perform just because of this feeling of self-doubt. So first, I'd like to start with a very short exercise. And I'd like you all to think of the most effective mentor you know. Could be somebody who mentored you, could be somebody you've observed mentoring others. If you don't know any effective mentors, think about a hypothetical one who you think would be a good mentor. And just take 1 to 2 minutes and write down, just jot down or think of that person's characteristics or behaviors that made them such a good mentor. What made them actually effective? What did they do, or what were their personal qualities? So I'm going to pause for just a minute or two and give you a second to think about that. Okay, now do the same thing for the least effective mentor you know. So sometimes this is an easier category for us to come up with, unfortunately. Again, it can be somebody you have direct experience with or who you've just seen mentoring. Take just a few moments, write down that person's characteristics that made them an ineffective mentor. What did they do or what did they fail to do that meant that they were an ineffective mentor? If you have time, you can rank the qualities in order of importance. What do you think is the most important quality to being a mentor, and what do you think is the one thing you really ought not be or do as a mentor? Okay, so I'm going to share with you the example of my very first experience being a mentor. And I'm going to use that as a framework to discuss 3 key concepts: the role of imposter syndrome, the 5 stages of being asked to be a mentor, which is modeled on the 5 stages of grief. You may or may not be familiar with that. And then how to overcome imposter syndrome to be an effective mentor. So I need to give you a little bit of background so you can understand the example. In the United States, we have a program called Teach for America. And it's a program that takes people who are highly trained in their field. In my example, that was in science, in the sciences, in molecular biology and restoration ecology, but who are not trained to be teachers, and puts them into the public school system in places that are very disadvantaged, very economically disadvantaged. It's very hard for them to get good teachers. And so the people who are doing this program are very well trained in their field and very inexperienced as teachers. And there is a training program for this, but it only lasts 1 month. And you're just sort of thrown in the deep end. And I went to my school, and I did not have a very successful first semester. We all made it, but lots of things conspired to make it a very difficult semester. The only other teacher quit. I was teaching 50 plus kids in a class. The conditions were very poor. There was a hole in the ceiling of my classroom, and rats would fall through it pretty regularly. It was very challenging circumstances. And I struggled. And the end result of the experience is that, or the end result of the semester is that the children are required to take a national test or a state test. And they have to pass that test in order to graduate. And the pass rate in my school was very low. It was in the 40%. And my first semester, we didn't do much better than that. And so I was feeling very frustrated, just sort of feeling like a failure. I'd failed the children. And in the midst of this, then I get a phone call. And I get a phone call from a person who's just starting, hasn't taught yet. And she is absolutely panicked about starting teaching without any preparation. And we had been at a conference together, and somebody had recommended that she ask me to be her mentor. So she did. She called me up, and I answered the phone, and she's in tears. She's so worried, so stressed. She's crying. And she said, would I be her mentor? And so this is when I begin to really experience imposter syndrome. I feel like there is no possible way I am qualified to help this person. And more than that, to help this person help other people. And so I want to tell her no. But by the same token, there's nobody else there who can help her. And so I had to take a really close look at, could I actually help this person? And so I went through these 5 stages, and you may have experienced this if you have been asked to be a mentor in the past. I first thought, there's no way I can do this. I'm the wrong person. I am not experienced enough. I don't know enough. I certainly can't help somebody else. I can barely help myself. Then I panicked that I was going to fail this person, and that I would be exposed as in fact being an imposter. That's part of imposter syndrome, is fearing the exposure. Moved on to bargaining. I could help find a better person, a person who's actually qualified, a person who could mentor her, somebody who's not an imposter. And then, as I said, there wasn't anybody else there, and so I had to take a hard look at my own skills and experience, and think about really what was needed to mentor this person. Did I need to be a really experienced teacher in order to help this person? Is there anything I could offer this person as a mentor? And eventually said yes, I would be her mentor. I did have some skills, I did have some experience that I could pass on to her that would be valuable as a mentor. And so this is the part that I want to highlight here. What are the skills and experience that are actually needed to be an effective mentor? Is it this unbelievable breadth of knowledge and experience? Sometimes, so that certainly can be helpful. But I'm going to argue that there are some key core characteristics that most people have or have the ability to learn that are really what make you an effective mentor, rather than just breadth of experience. I have known many mentors who had very broad experience and really were very ineffective mentors because they were unable to leverage that to help their mentee. So just return to the short exercises you did in the beginning and take a few moments to share in the chat just one or two words, some of the characteristics of an effective mentor that you have observed. And think about whether, as you're sharing those and as you're reading other people's, think about whether or not those skills are something that you could learn or gain or perhaps already have, or if there's something that just relies on having been in your position for many, many years. I think that you'll find that most of them are what we call learnable skills, and skills that many people already have regardless of their tenure in an organism. So just take a few moments. Hopefully that's happening. Unfortunately, as a presenter, I cannot see the chat, so I'm going to have faith that that is happening. And feel free to share if there are some characteristics that occur to you that make someone a really ineffective mentor. Feel free to share those as well. So the characteristics that I mentioned, the first one is listening. To be an effective mentor, you have to listen to the person you are attempting to mentor. You have to listen to their perception of things. You have to listen to what they feel are their stumbling blocks. You have to listen to what their goals and aspirations are. Sometimes mentors can come from the perspective of wanting to push their mentee in a certain way. But I would argue it's more important to listen to your mentee and discover what it is that they are hoping to get out of the relationship. It's also true when problems crop up, when you're trying to problem solve, there's been a stumbling block, whether it's getting a paper published or it's completing a course or whatever it is, it's very important to listen to what's going on with the mentee in order to be able to come up with an effective solution. The second one is, as a mentor, you need to be good at problem solving. In many respects, mentoring is problem solving. You are helping the other person, you're helping your mentee learn how to overcome obstacles. We all have obstacles in our lives, in our careers, and the goal is to help that person overcome those, whether it's by helping them network, by helping them grow in skills. Maybe you're helping them learn how to become a better writer. Maybe you're learning how to become a better researcher. Maybe they're learning how to become a better teacher themselves, as in my example. But you have to be able to engage in problem solving. Patience. I did see that pop up. Somebody mentioned patience. Definitely. Patience, compassion for the other person. We've all been in the role of learning. Hopefully we are still in the role of learning in certain ways, but definitely patience is a very key characteristic. And the mentor serves as a guide for goal setting and accountability. Setting an achievable goal can be very tricky. Finding the right parameters. How long should it take to reach this goal? What are the steps to reach this goal? And then helping the person make sure they're meeting all of the benchmarks along the way. And if not, going back to that patience, problem solving, and listening to help them get to those different benchmarks so that they ultimately reach their goal. And as I mentioned earlier, all four of those are learnable skills. Those are things that you can work to develop in yourself. You don't have to just already have them. Those are all things that we can work and develop, and that hopefully every time you mentor someone, you are growing in those skills. And so before we go on to the steps of addressing imposter syndrome, I wanted to give you the end of the story of my mentoring experience. So I did agree to be her mentor, and we met every day after school. Obviously, that level of commitment is not necessary for every mentoring relationship, but we were in a very tricky situation, and so we met every day, and I shared lesson plans and problem solved with issues she was having with the children not understanding concepts, listened to her difficulties with classroom management, her difficulties with lack of resources. I helped her set her goals for her classroom, and I helped her stay accountable to those goals as we went along. And in the end, we were very successful. And I had mentioned previously there was that test our children had to take at the end of the semester. And my first time through, my children had not done much better than they'd done previously in the 40%. And this time through, all of our children, my children and her children, our students, over 90% of them passed. And so this was a phenomenal increase in achievement that really was very meaningful to the students who were in our classrooms, because it meant that they were able to graduate high school. So that example is to show that I did not have a breadth of experience in that area while I was acting as a mentor, but because I used those core skills, listening, patience, problem solving, and helping her with goal setting and accountability, the end result was extremely successful. And she felt confident to go on and continue to teach. I felt confident to go on and continue to teach and to start mentoring. So now let's talk about how you can address this feeling of inadequacy in order to be able to take that step like I did and say, yes, I will mentor you. I will engage in this role. The picture off to the side is a little bit of a humorous thing, although it is actually, I have experienced this. You know about imposter syndrome and you think, okay, but the problem is it can still overwhelm you, where you know lots of people have imposter syndrome, but then you see how actually competent they are, and you think, well, they have imposter syndrome, but I'm really actually not qualified. I really can't do this. And that's really just still imposter syndrome speaking. So the steps to addressing imposter syndrome, the very first thing is just to recognize it. You start feeling stressed, you start feeling inadequate, you start feeling like you don't belong where you are, whether it's in an academic position, whether it's in a researcher position, at a university, you just feel like everyone else belongs here and I don't belong here. Recognize that that's what's happening. You attained that position on merit. There is reason for you to be there. And then take some time to catalog what knowledge and skills you actually need for the task or position. And in this talk, we're talking about mentoring, but you can apply this to all sorts of other areas in which you encounter imposter syndrome. So in my example, I drilled down into what knowledge and what skills did I really need to mentor that person. And it turned out they were skills that I had. And that's the next step. You need this knowledge, you need these skills. Do you have that knowledge? Do you have those skills? If you don't, then you can make a plan to address any areas of weakness. If you do discover that you're lacking in some area, then that has given you the power to fix that, the power to address that. You can leverage your networks and improve yourself in those areas. And we're going to come back to that idea when we talk about how mentoring is actually professional development for the mentor as well. Ask for help. There are people in your life who you can ask for help, whether it is your own mentor, whether it's a professor, whether it's a peer, whether it is a researcher, whether it is somebody outside of your work or academic environment. Somebody can help you gain those skills that you need and the knowledge that you need. And it's important to ask for help, in part because that also then encourages other people to ask for help. And it creates a community of trust wherein you can all be improving. And that's very important in a mentor-mentee relationship. And practice self-compassion. We can be very self-critical, very hard on ourselves, and that can actually feed into imposter syndrome and make it more difficult to overcome. So if there are areas in which you need some help, you need some growth, you need some development, that's true for all of us. And just be sure that you are not denigrating yourself, that you are recognizing all of the skills and experience and knowledge that you bring to the table, and the ways in which you are able to help people. So we're going to discuss now, I had mentioned this before, but what are the benefits of being a mentor? Why does someone want to be a mentor? There's very obvious reasons why you would want to be mentored, but why would you want to be a mentor? So as we mentioned before, mentoring is a mutually beneficial relationship, and being a mentor is a form of professional development, just as being mentored is. I think there are lots of benefits to mentoring. I love being a mentor. I really, really enjoy it. Some of them are networking, whether it's networking with people that your mentee knows, or it's networking on behalf of the person you are mentoring. Lots of times you will end up reaching out and helping that person make connections. Those are connections that could be very valuable for you too. It's a great opportunity to reflect on your own skills, your goals, your development, whether it's in these kind of interpersonal skills that are needed to be a good mentor, or if it's skills that the person you're mentoring is trying to develop, and you realize, you know, we need to connect with somebody who has more of that skill, and you can learn in the process as well. Definitely, it always helps improve your problem-solving skills, your communication skills, your leadership skills, including managerial skills, which is very important for career development, and your interpersonal skills, how you interact with other people. Those are skills that can be a little bit challenging to find ways and opportunities to grow dramatically in. Mentoring is one of the very best ways to develop those skills. You're also involved in shaping the development of your colleagues and your organization. And that is a very powerful position to be in, because you're helping the future of whatever organization you're participating in, whether that's a university, a laboratory, a company, by helping people who are newer to the company or newer to the field grow and develop in certain ways. You're then shaping the actual entire organization, which is pretty phenomenal. And I think one of the most important things is, if you have an open mind, you also gain new perspectives from your mentees. Their ideas, their fresh take on things, they're looking at things in different ways from you. And if you have an open mind to that, you can learn a lot from the people that you are mentoring. So finally, we're going to talk about, you know, if you're convinced that yes, you would like to engage in mentoring, sometimes it can be a little tricky to identify opportunities for that. There's formal mentoring, which means that there is an actual established program. Research Square Company has that for their employees. Some universities have that. Lots of other companies have that. So you can inquire to see if wherever you are, if there is a formal mentoring program. And if there isn't, or even if there is and you don't want to have that kind of commitment, or it's not something that appeals to you, there's also informal mentoring, where people you have encountered in the course of your schooling or career, it occurs that they would be a good mentee for you. You'd be a good mentor for them. in order to find those people, sometimes mentees will seek mentors independently. This is how you end up getting asked. And then you have to go through the very difficult stages we talked about before about, are you qualified and will you accept? That's wonderful if somebody has found you and asks you to be their mentor. You can also consider making it publicly known that you would be interested in serving as a mentor. You can tell your colleagues, tell your peers, and then if they encounter someone who would like a mentor, then they're more likely to be able to connect the two of you. I have found mentees that way, and it can be very effective. People who know you both can connect you. You can also actively seek a mentee. You can talk to supervisors, you can talk to managers, you can talk to peers, and ask them, is there somebody who could benefit from this relationship? I'd like to do this. That can also be a very excellent way of identifying someone who maybe would be shy about asking someone to be their mentor. That can be a very scary thing to do. And you're offering up this opportunity for somebody for growth and development, and it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for you as well. So once you've identified an appropriate mentee, make sure to start from the very beginning with very clear communication. Also coming from the perspective of positivity and supportiveness and those key skills that we talked about previously, which is listening, engaging in problem solving, practicing patience, and serving as a guide for their goal setting and their accountability. And if you keep those 4 skills always in the forefront of your mind as you're engaging in this mentoring relationship, you will be very successful and your mentee will be very successful. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's morning over here in the United States. I really hope that you found this informative and that you feel encouraged and emboldened to mentor and to engage in these wonderful opportunities for professional development.
Okay. Hi, Mel. Should we now enter the question and answer section? Okay. 大家好，非常感谢刚才 Mary 非常精彩的讲座。那么接下来呢是一个问答的环节，如果大家有问题的话，可以最好是在 Q&A 这个区域给我们留言。当然，我看大家有一些心得啊，比如这位沈万洲，应该是我们的听众，他直接在 chat 里面跟我们分享了。非常感谢您的参与，非常感谢大家的参与，因为毕竟作为一个女性导师来说，确实是挺不容易的。大家如果有什么想问的问题呢，可以2个对话框都可以给我们留言，然后可以相互交流一下。Okay, Mary, I will tell something about the Q&A to the attendees, and let's see if they have some questions.
Yeah, one question has been asked, which is about if you're going to mentor students, should you try and help them set goals based on realistic levels? That's an excellent question. And definitely, I think that's one of the key aspects of mentoring students is to recognize what level they are at and helping them set realistic goals that are very achievable based on where they're starting at. And whatever that is for, whether it's their writing, whether it's their research, whether it's their knowledge, learning exactly truly where they are, perhaps not where they think they are, or where they're telling you they are, where they really are, and then helping them set small, achievable goals so they can experience the success of achieving the goal. And then you can sort of, as they experience the success, you can sort of expand, and help draw them up so that they really do grow in skills. All right, I see another question. Personal style schedule is very valued. Students do not take it seriously. Yes, it can be very challenging with students. I experienced that as a teacher. I taught for 8 years. Some of it is also finding what motivates them, and that can come out of a very open conversation, if you can have a conversation with the students about what are their goals and why do they want those goals. If they don't actually want to achieve the goal, then they need to set a different goal. If they want to achieve a goal, but it's for a different reason than maybe you or I would have, okay, but as long as you know what that reason is, then you can help them see why achieving their goal will, get them whatever it is that they're wanting, whatever their motivation is. So I think finding their motivation is one of the keys to pushing the students, because you can always bring it back to something that actually matters to them. It may not be what matters to you, it may not be what matters to me, or may not be what we should matter to the students. But if it is what matters to them, then you can use that to motivate them. Another excellent question. Thank you for questions.
So other questions? And thanks for Mary's answer. So let's see if there are any more questions. Let's wait for a moment. And at the same time, I want to share some information with you. 因为这次呢是我们 AJE 的这个国际38妇女节的一个讲座，然后这里呢给大家放上了我们 AJE 的 WeChat Service Account， 也就是我们 AJE 的微信公众号。希望大家感兴趣的话可以关注。因为我们其实在此之前、在此之后都会有很多精彩的讲座。今天是因为是38节嘛，所以我们主要是跟这个女性导师相关的。那我们其实更多时候会有很多关于论文如何去写作，然后比如说基金如何申请、如何去投稿等等的一些干货的一些讲座，所以大家扫码的话可以关注。然后这里呢还有一个我们 AJE 的客服的邮箱support@aje.com。如果大家有关于任何订单的问题的话呢，可以咨询我们的客服邮箱。然后我还这里附赠给大家一个 AJE1108的一个折扣代码，因为非常感谢大家在百忙之中今天晚上来参加我们的讲座，因为我们要协调中美的这个时差嘛，所以就是只能定在了今天晚上的时间，非常感谢大家。所以作为一个回馈，希望大家能牢记 AJE1108，如果今后有提交订单的需要的话，输入 AJE1108就可以立减20美元的优惠。非常感谢大家。So, are there any more questions? 如果大家没有更多的问题的话，那可能我们今天的讲座就结束了。Okay, no more questions. So I think now it's time to end up our webinar, and hope we can have more opportunities to communicate with each other. And thanks very much, Mary. Thank you very much, Phil, for this excellent presentation. And also, Mary, Happy Women's Day to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to everyone who joined the presentation.
Okay, so see you next time. Bye bye. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Bye bye.